It begins before dawn on the misty hills of KwaZulu in the early 19th century. The air is damp, the sky still black. You are barefoot, stripped to a thin hide tunic, and every muscle in your body aches. Around you, hundreds of men rise from the ground like shadows, silent but alert. No drums beat, no horns sound. Just the steady, whispered orders of commanders who could end your life with a glance. You've been drafted into the most feared military system in southern Africa, the regiments of SHAKA Zulu, later called SHAKA Zulu. You will run all day barefoot over thorns. You will train with a spear so short it forces you to close with your enemy, face to face. You will obey without hesitation, or you will die before the sun sets. Outsiders see glory. Insiders whisper of exhaustion, hunger, and executions for the smallest failures. In the kingdom SHAKA forged, survival is not guaranteed even for the loyal. What kind of system takes ordinary young men and turns them into a living wall of spears? How did one leader's obsession with discipline and innovation create an army that terrified entire regions, but also consumed its own? And if you were dropped into that world for just one day, would you make it to nightfall? To understand why surviving SHAKA's army was nearly impossible, you must first step into the world that produced it. Early 19th century Southern Africa was a mosaic of chiefdoms. Drought, competition for grazing land, and the spread of European firearms were destabilizing the region. Into this turbulence was born SHAKA, the illegitimate son of a minor Zulu chieftain. Sent into exile as a boy, he learned humiliation early and rose through the ranks of the powerful Mthethwa Confederacy under Dingiswayo. When SHAKA assumed leadership of the small Zulu clan around 1816, it numbered only a few hundred warriors. Yet he saw in the region's chaos an opportunity. He reshaped the Zulu military with ruthless logic, larger age-based regiments, amabuto, iron discipline, and revolutionary tactics. Boys were grouped into military age sets, living in separate barracks called ikanda, far from home. They drilled for months, sometimes years, before their first battle. Only upon proving themselves could they marry and return to civilian life. This was not a volunteer army. It was a machine. Spear points were reshaped into the short-shafted Ikalwa stabbing spear, forcing brutal close combat instead of distant skirmishing. Large cowhide shields were standardized, and barefoot forced marches over rocky terrain became a test of endurance. The combination produced an army unmatched in mobility and cohesion, but the cost was high. Punishments were swift. Disobedience meant death. Failures in battle could lead to entire units being executed. While European observers later romanticized SHAKA's regiments, those inside lived under constant threat. In this crucible, warriors either became instruments of conquest or perished. The stage was set for a military revolution whose discipline bordered on terror. The machine SHAKA built didn't emerge overnight. It hardened through relentless training and campaigns. Recruits, often teenagers, were taken from their families into barracks surrounded by palisades. Food was rationed, luxuries forbidden. Each morning began with long runs across thorn-studded plains carrying heavy shields. At night, warriors slept on mats, heads shaved, their only possession a spear and shield. The message was clear. You belong to the king, body and soul. Whispers of rebellion or desertion were rare because punishment was public and absolute. Chroniclers recorded instances where an entire regiment was ordered to execute a comrade for minor infractions. The psychological effect was immense. No warrior wanted to be next. This created a culture of absolute obedience that made Zulu forces frighteningly reliable in battle. By the early 1820s, SHAKA's campaign spread outward in what historians later called the Mfakane, the crushing or scattering. Neighboring chiefdoms were attacked, absorbed, or dispersed. Refugees fled hundreds of miles. SHAKA's regiments perfected encircling tactics. The famous Horns of the Buffalo formation. Veterans formed the chest. Younger warriors swept around as horns to envelop the enemy, and reserves waited as the loins. It was elegant and devastating. Yet inside this system, survival was never guaranteed. Campaigns were long, food scarce, and wounds often fatal. Warriors marched barefoot hundreds of kilometers at a time. Those who faltered risked execution or abandonment. Even success bred danger. SHAKA sometimes executed victorious units he suspected of arrogance. Loyalty was rewarded but never guaranteed safety. Imagine yourself in one of these regiments on the eve of a campaign. You haven't seen your family in years. You're forbidden to marry. Your stomach is empty, your legs bruised. In the darkness, you hear rumors. Tomorrow's attack will be unlike any before. Your commander sharpens his Ikloa by the firelight. Then he tells you, we will run before dawn. We will not stop until the enemy is gone. You tighten your grip on your shield knowing that faltering is not an option. But what waits beyond the next ridge is even worse. Dawn breaks. Mist clings to the hills as thousands of Zulu warriors move silently, their feet drumming the earth in unison. You run with them, your lungs burning, yet no one slows. Ahead lies an enemy village fortified with wooden stockades. The plan is already in motion. Veterans in the center, younger regiments fanning out as horns. There will be no retreat. Drums are forbidden. Silence is the weapon. As the sun climbs, the charge begins. The ground trembles under the weight of running men. Shields rise like a wall. Arrows and musket balls hiss through the air, but the formation does not break. You slam into the stockade, ramming with your shield, thrusting the short spear through gaps. The enemy fires again. Warriors fall. Others step over them. This is Shaka's doctrine. Close, crush, overwhelm. You are inside now, face to face with defenders. The Ikloa's short blade forces you within arm's reach, so close you smell sweat and fear. The noise is deafening. Grunts, wood splintering, the shriek of those who fall. There is no pause, no mercy. Victory must be absolute. Behind you, reserves pour in to finish the encirclement. Outside, fires begin to rise. Refugees scatter into the bush only to be hunted down. For the enemy, the battle is annihilation. For you, survival is a coin toss. A single misstep, a hesitation, and you could be cut down. If not by the enemy, then by your own comrades for failing to press forward. When the fighting ends, the field is a churned mess of trampled earth and bodies. You stand trembling, your spear slick, your eyes blank. Yet there is no celebration. The commander orders an immediate march to the next target. This is not a campaign of battles. It is a rolling storm. Even as victories pile up, fear remains. Shaka is unpredictable. Rumors spread of regiments executed for minor disobedience, of commanders speared for retreating. You realize survival is not about winning battles. It's about perfect obedience and relentless endurance. The army has become a living organism, and you are just one cell. A single day feels like a lifetime. A lifetime can end before sunset. You wonder if you will ever see your home again, or if you've already marched beyond return. When Shaka fell to an assassination in 1828, he left behind a kingdom forged in discipline and terror. His army had redrawn the map of southern Africa, scattering populations, creating new states, and altering trade routes. For the young men inside the regiments, however, the cost was enormous. Years of separation from families, forced celibacy, constant campaigns, and the looming threat of execution. Few emerged unscarred, yet the legacy of Shaka's system is complex. It created a centralized, militarized Zulu kingdom that could stand against colonial incursions for decades. Later Zulu armies under kings like Cetshwayo would face the British at battles such as Isandlwana, where echoes of Shaka's tactics helped inflict one of Britain's worst defeats in Africa. But the same system also sowed trauma across the region, fueling the Memphis and massive displacements. For modern viewers, the question isn't just how Shaka built his war machine, but whether anyone could truly survive inside it. Was it brilliance or brutality? Innovation or obsession? The answer may be all of these. What is certain is that Shaka transformed warfare in southern Africa, leaving a legend still debated 2 centuries later. So imagine again stepping barefoot onto that damp grass before dawn. The regiment stirs. Orders snap like whips. You tighten your grip on the spear. In this world, hesitation is death. Glory is survival, and survival is never guaranteed. Perhaps the deadliest enemy of all was not the rival chiefdoms beyond the hills, but the system itself.